Great, so we need to open up Tux now, and let's see if this works. We'll create a new variable called user1, set equal to user.new. We know this user has a username, call it Danny, it's a string, and an email. There's a typo in there, doesn't really matter, just testing this out. We see a new user has been created. It doesn't have an ID yet. That's because we haven't saved it to the database. So we actually need to save it. We'll say user1.save, and you can see the SQL. We've created it. If I type user.all, you can see all of the users. We have only one. Let's create one more. User2 equals user. Well, let's use create, and it will create a new user and save it at the same time. Username Jim. And we can see it's been assigned a user ID of 2. So remember that user ID is really important because that's how we're going to connect our tweets to our users. So let's create a new tweet now. So I'll type tweet.create, and this is going to be a tweet that Jim is tweeting. So we will type user_ID, and we know Jim's user ID is 2, so user ID 2, status, I love Game of Thrones. And the tweet's been created, and it has a user ID of 2. So now, at this point, we haven't connected our user and our tweets. We haven't built that relationship. So we just are missing one small piece here. So in our tweet model, we need to say that any tweet that gets created belongs to a user. Right? We had talked about this earlier. And any user that gets created has many tweets. So let's exit here and reload Tux. And now let's see our tweet.last.user. Hey, so for our last tweet, the user is Jim. Or we can say, let's create a new variable called Jim equals user.last. And so now we can type Jim.tweets, and it'll show us that Jim's last tweet is I love Game of Thrones. Fantastic. So now you can see how these things are interacting with each other. And you can imagine that if you have millions of tweets and millions of users, this makes it a lot easier to associate and find the tweets that belong to the users and the users that what users are creating what tweets and what tweets belong to what users. So take some time, play around with Tux, and once you're done with that, we're actually going to jump into updating our front end so that we can account for these new tables.